Hello and welcome to Tuesday's Tips. I'm Meg Rentschler, the host of the Star Coach Show and a coach mentor instructor. One of the things that I have learned over the years of teaching and mentoring literally thousands of coaches is that we are often drawn to coaching for one thing. And along the way, we begin to tell ourselves stories that might or might not work for us. And those stories end up creating a paradox that pulls us away from what it is that we really joined coaching for to begin with. So today, I want to talk about really tapping into your coaching purpose and how, when we coach from a place of genuine passion, our energy is contagious. When we work with clients who truly light us up, who we create incredible results with, that creates a powerful dynamic where we and our clients thrive. When, in fact, we allow ourselves to get caught up in shoulds, shooting on ourselves is never a good thing. But when we get caught up in shoulds and placing expectations on ourselves about how we should coach because other people have told us this, or because we have told ourselves a story that the only way to be successful is to do X, Y, and Z, but it's not authentic and genuine to us. What I see again and again is that it ends up putting us in a spin, doesn't create the kind of traction or success that we want, and that leads to burnout and diminished results. So, what I want to talk about in today's Tuesday Tips is the strategy for claiming our purpose and how we create clarity about that for ourselves. I want to talk about some strategies in really identifying your authentic spark so that when you are showing up, you're showing up in a way that is literally magnetic, and it helps you reconnect with what energizes you and what other people can't stay away from. They're drawn to. Now, I mentioned that paradox. And the reason that this topic came to me this week, I'd been sort of toying with what can I talk about in today's Tuesday Tips that are going to help coaches move the needle, that can highlight the show that comes out tomorrow, which is a solo show around, is fear holding you back? So I always like to do my Tuesday Tips to somehow tie in with the brand new show on Wednesday. But what cemented for me the Tuesday Tips was a mentor session that I did yesterday with a fabulous coach who the world needs more of what she has to offer. She's got a target audience that needs her wisdom and needs to be able to work with her. She's branded herself. She's created incredible offerings for her population. And somewhere along the line, she told herself, the only way that I can make money as a coach is to work in the corporate arena. That message that she gave herself, excuse me, which is actually not really in alignment with the brand that she's built, with the value that she's bringing. What did it do? It stopped her in her tracks so that she stopped delivering content to the audience that she adores, because she got wrapped up around, how do I get into organizations? How do I get into organizations? Now, I'm not saying that working in organizations is a bad thing. I love working in organizations. I also know that's not the only, it's not like only successful coaches work in organizations. There are many successful coaches who have identified what their passion is and have been able to get creative about how they're offering a service in such a way that speaks to their ideal audience, the audience that lights them up, and allows them to offer a service that feeds into their well-being mentally, financially, physically as a coach. So, a couple things that I want to talk about is, one, what are the stories that you're telling yourself? What do you believe to be true? And is that story helping you move towards the success you want, or is it sticking you in your tracks? And if it's sticking you in your tracks, what else could be true? What else might you tell yourself, experiment with, research that opens up new perspective? Because I promise you, your lens is too small if you're telling yourself a story that is keeping you stuck. So, what I want to challenge you to do is tap back into the genuine excitement and purpose that you had in mind when you first decided to go into coaching, and whether the actions that you're taking, the clarity that you've created, the focus that you have is helping you move towards creating the kind of impact you want, or whether you're getting stuck in the mud. And I thought maybe what we would do as we think about reclaiming your coaching purpose is to give you some strategies on how you get clear again about what your authentic spark is. Help you reconnect to what really energizes you. And then maybe just talk just briefly about some things you can do to expand how you're thinking about the services you offer. Because maybe if you have decided that your ideal audience is not an audience that you can make money serving, first of all, maybe to revisit that and think, am I thinking too narrowly about the way that I offer? Am I getting creative enough about what they need and how I can engage with that audience? We won't, excuse me. We won't dive into that as much today, although I want to give you some things to challenge yourself. But this is Tuesday Tips. It's supposed to be short and sweet. So today we're going to really talk about identifying your authentic spark. But if the talk about how to get creative about the services you offer, if that's something that would light you up and excite you, leave a comment below this on YouTube, Star Coach Show at YouTube, wherever you're listening, on LinkedIn, Facebook. Like, leave me a note about, yes, that would be helpful, or this topic would be helpful for a Tuesday Tips, because I'm all about offering you what you need to be able to move forward. So let's talk about a couple strategies that you can employ to reconnect with your authentic spark, especially if you feel like you've drifted too far and you're uncertain about what really is your in your heart purpose. So first of all, as we know with our clients, when we lean into past success experiences, that creates clarity. It creates clarity about who we are and what we want to bring forward. So I would encourage you to lean into your own success experiences. Reflect upon your 3 to 5 most fulfilling coaching sessions ever. What made those sessions stand out to you? What were you doing differently that created that? And what were the issues and the situations that your clients were bringing to you and that you were partnering towards success in. Look for patterns across your past success experiences. That's your first strategy. Your second strategy is to do a little bit of a body check energy audit for yourself. Create a 2-column worksheet where you track those activities that drain you versus that energize you. Does it drain you to think about engaging with this particular population, or I'll own one of a huge drainer for me is to fill out a huge RFP, a huge request for proposal, where you have to jump through 82 hoops. And I just know that drains my energy. That's not something that I want to do. It's not going to be something that my full energy is in. So I just don't do those huge RFPs. I've got friends who love to do those. They love to write. They love to kind of fill it all. That's great. And go for it, because it takes all kinds, right? So what lights me up is creating programs like the Star Coach community, where I can input what I know coaches need to thrive and then invite them into community to be a part of that experience and to help them thrive. So, 2-column worksheet: what activities drain you? What activities energize you? Just do it for 1 week. What are the activities that light you up? What was it about the people you were working with, or the topics you were working on, or the kind of experience that was, that either energized you or drained you? Those are going to be important to understand. And I encourage you to take the time you need to audit yourself and your energy. What about looking at your physical response to things? I call them like my stomach ache moments versus my excitement moments. What is it that excites me and gets me engaged and gets my creativity going versus those things that pull away from me? That might be another way to kind of look at that audit. I would also encourage you to think about, and to really maybe even keep a journal of a thought log. When you think about, so I've talked about energy, sort of body. I've talked about past success experiences, but part of the thing that motivates us, that moves us into the consequences of positive emotions and behaviors, really being able to engage and do things, is the thoughts that we're thinking. So I'm going to encourage you to keep a thought log. Keep a thought log about when you respond to different opportunities, when you think about, for example, with my client, thinking I've got to engage with organizations. Well, first of all, is that where her strengths lie? But also, what were the thoughts that she tells herself whenever she thinks about engaging with an organization? I encourage you to keep track of your thoughts. What's the evaluation that you're putting on any given situation? The way that we evaluate that situation ends up creating the way we feel about it and the way that we behaviorally respond to it. So if we don't like the way we feel about something and the way that we're behaviorally responding to it, what could we think instead? So if I'm thinking that I can only be successful if I work in organizations, but I know my brand doesn't really fit with organizations, there's a different type of client that I really want to work with. I either need to change the way that I feel or thinking about organizations, or I need to change the way that I'm thinking about the clients that I work with. And so I might need to change, if this is who lights me up and excites me to work with, how could I conceivably think about working with them in a way that can create the kind of lifestyle I want, that can create the kind of business that I want. So now we go to the strategy of, if you are beginning to tap into who your passion is, what your real coach calling is, and you've decided, I can't work with that population because they can't pay me. I'm never going to be able to make as much money as if I work in an organization, but I don't really want to work in it. I mean, do you hear the kind of the way that our thoughts can just kind of cycle upon one another? What I would say is the very first step to creating any kind, whether you're going to work in an organization, work with individuals, work in groups, provide courses or digital programs, it all starts. And this is going to be a huge thing about tapping into your coaching passion. It starts with clarity. And I'm not saying that you have to have everything figured out to such a degree that you don't take any steps forward until you know every single step of the plan. That's not what I mean. But what I do mean is you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your clients to get super clear about your special sauce for whoever you work with. So when you create a very specialized offer, when you understand what it is that you want to offer to that population that is your spark, that is your excitement, that is your reason for wanting to coach, that's where it starts. And you aren't going to be able to kind of create the income or create the experience that you want for any population until you can get clear about that. So it starts with getting precise. People don't want to work with a jack of all trades. They want to work with somebody who understands them. And maybe part of the story you're telling yourself about, I can't make a living working with this population, is because you haven't gotten clear about what that population really needs and the most creative way that you can bring that value. And that might be that you work with more in a group or in a course, that you then invite them into something else. Often, we sort of hold that comparison up, like, oh, I know coaches that work with CEOs and they make $50,000 in engagement because they're working with the CEO. Okay. And that's true. And that but is that really who you want to work with? And does that mean that if your special population is, is teachers who are trying to navigate being able to bring their value forward in the face of limited resources, overwhelm, burnout, maybe, and are they going to be able to pay $50,000 a piece for a coaching engagement? No, probably not. Now, I don't want to get in other people's wallets, but my guess is probably not. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't offer an incredible coaching program that offers group and maybe even some coursework and some ways for them to get what they want. They would probably want to be able to be energized and excited and feel supported and work towards, like, maybe it's clear boundary setting with parents, or maybe it's being able to be assertive and stand up for their rights. I mean, that's not my key population, so I don't know their pain points, but what I do know is that when you can get really clear about what the pain points are, but also what the goals are, what they're working toward, and you can create a program for that, and they enter that program at a lower price point, you have many people coming in at that price point, and therefore you're still making a good living for yourself, a thriving living for yourself, and bringing value to the population that lights you up. So you want to align your value. You want to align your pricing with the value that you're bringing. And if you're stuck on comparison, if you're stuck on the only way that I'm going to bring value or the only way that I can make the kind of money that I want is to work with people who are going to pay $50,000 out of pocket, you've got relatively limited population that's going to be able to do that. And that might not even be the population that you're experienced working with, that you get results for. So I guess my whole point today, when we think about letting go of the shoulds, letting go of the comparison, and tapping into our authentic spark, is you got to think outside of the box. And if you're caught up in comparing and thinking that there's only one path to the outcome, you're gonna stay stuck. You just that you've got to expand your lens. You've got to expand your lens by first tapping into what is your authentic spark, because when you find your authentic spark, you're going to have an energy that attracts people to you. And yes, you might need to get creative about the service that you're offering and how you're packaging it and how you're bringing it forward. But it's possible. And it's only possible if you get creative, if you expand. And in my belief, the best way to begin that journey is to allow yourself to take the time and to focus in on what really lights me up. What is the service that I want to provide? And get clear about the results that you bring, what it is that that population really needs from you. That's the beginning. All the other things, we can talk about creative ways to offer things for them. Let's start with your authentic spark, your coaching purpose. I'm challenging you to get clear about what that is. Leave a comment below this YouTube video, leave a comment in LinkedIn, leave a comment on the Star Coach Facebook page. And let's have a conversation around what lights you up. Then we can have a conversation about how you can deliver that service in such a way that brings value and gets you excited beyond belief. So, this is Tuesday Tips for this week. I'm Meg Rentschler, the host of the Star Coach Show. I thank you for being here. If you like what we're doing, be sure to subscribe at our YouTube channel at Star Coach Show. Follow me on LinkedIn or join the Star Coach Facebook page. We'd love to have you as a part of that. Remember that the Star Coach Show has a brand new episode that goes live every Wednesday. Tomorrow, my question to you is fear holding you back? The Star Coach Show is on the YouTube channel at Star Coach Show, but it's also on all the platforms where podcasts are. So be sure to follow the show. And until next week, this is Meg Rentschler wishing you the best for your success, whatever that success is. You take care. Bye-bye.